You know how people always talk about the most infamous dictator of the 20th century, Adolf Hitler? Well, here's something that'll blow your mind. It turns out he was absolutely obsessed with money. I mean, we all know he loved power and all that, but who knew he was also a bit of a financial geek? Now, you might be thinking, what's the big deal about Hitler's bank account? But hear me out. This is actually really interesting stuff. See, when Hitler finally took over Germany in 1933, people started to notice this huge disconnect between his public image and private life. I mean, on the outside, he was all about austerity and thriftiness, but it turns out that behind closed doors, he loved living large. One guy, a journalist named Ingo Helm, decided to dig into Hitler's finances for his new documentary series, Hitler's Money. And let me tell you, what he found is pretty fascinating. According to Helm, Hitler was super interested in making money from his writing and photography. Yes, that's right, the guy who took over Europe was also a keen photographer. Apparently, Hitler saw himself as an unrecognized genius, which, let's be real, might not have been too far off. But what really drove him was this desire for power, social advancement, and of course, cash. Helm says that Hitler genuinely believed that making money would validate his own success, and it's actually kind of sad to think about. Now, I know some of you are thinking, but wait a minute, didn't Hitler talk about how he struggled as an artist in Vienna? And yes, that's true. He did write extensively about his poverty and hardship before World War I. But what's interesting is that this was actually a major part of his self-image. He saw himself as the underdog who made it to the top through sheer determination. As historian Ian Kershaw points out, this whole thing is actually pretty revealing when you look at Hitler's later career. You see, in his early days, he claimed to be interested in social justice and helping those in need. But what we now know is that this was just a front for him to find scapegoats for his own failures, people like the Jews, who he blamed for all sorts of problems. All of which leads me to ask, how many of us have been guilty of doing something similar? I mean, how often do we blame others or external circumstances for our own shortcomings? It's actually kind of scary when you think about it. Anyway, that's the story of Hitler and his love of money in a nutshell. Not exactly what you'd expect from the guy who was responsible for some of humanity's darkest moments, but still pretty revealing about human nature. If you like this story, be sure to subscribe for more content like this. I've got plenty more where that came from.